I think we've had enough time, right?
We'll try to set a break.
Yeah, I think so. So, my name's Pete Eckman. I'm tired of telling you that today. I come from Team 7494. You'll see the branding on there. My team's now called the Fast Team. I have purple colors. So I miss the green because of the military. But purple and black and white are the team, or the school colors I'm going to. So I don't even have it branded yet, but I'll be switching this out. I don't have handouts for you today. One, I didn't want to waste paper. I like recycling, don't get me wrong, but how many things of paper do you guys have today? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the access list of everyone that was invited, and I'm going to send this whole deck to you. Okay, so you can use that well. It is password protected, but I'm sure you guys can get through that. I was an aviation mechanic for a TA-4J Skyhawk and an A-6 intruder in the United States Navy. I was off and on 3 different aircraft carriers. I'm older than I look, so I was in Desert Storm, Desert Shield. I don't smoke and I don't drink, so therefore I maintain my youthfulness, as well as I have a very rounded face. So, boyish looks, as I say. I am a senior solutions engineer for Deloitte Consulting. Don't mistake that engineer with I have an engineering degree. My undergrad is in computer science. I have an MBA. So I went business side. I can tell you coding all day long, but engineering is kind of not my strong suit. In our capacity as a company, they like to label us different labels every year because they go around because we're consulting, right? We have to make it sound like we're doing things, or we know what we're doing, and not that we don't, but they give us these fancy titles. So I do not have an engineering background. I was the scouting mentor for 70 and 494 for this past 2 seasons, as well as I host the podcast for RoboZone. So why do we scout? Has anyone here been a scout or in charge of scouting, or everyone new to scouting? Everyone's new to scouting? I know you were a participant. No one here has been with scouting, right? Yes, no?
Been involved somewhat.
So,
We watched our kids do it.
scouting really places your team in the alliance that you want to be with to succeed in whatever, or put yourself in the best place to win a tournament, or win a championship, or win a world championship, correct? And everyone here, probably except this young lady right here, will remember this little knowledge is power. G.I. Joe, everyone watched G.I. Joe when we were kids, right? We're all about the same age, right? So I wanted to throw that in. But it's knowing the teams that you're going to be aligned with and compete against, know each other's team is good at and might be vulnerable. This is the key for me. I'm always a defensive coach, not an offensive coach. I like to think defensively, because if I set myself up for defense, then offense is just a bonus, right? I can go on I can go on the offense.
Your computer went to sleep.
Computer. Did it? I told it not to do that. There we
There you
go.
go.
And know what each robot does and how it can help the alliance. I think, my personal opinion, and I've only been around first for 4 years, is sometimes we don't think of a team concept and we just want our bot to be really good, right? But teaching kids that this is a team-based event and not an individual-based event is the biggest hurdle that you can have, especially from a scouting perspective, because scouting is just going to give you the data that tells you, right? So my experience when I first joined, I kept my mouth shut the first year as a parent. I just watched, and I was learning and making notes. And all I heard is, oh, that robot is so good, or that team is so good. And then sometimes you have mentors, and we have all seen these mentors, nothing against these mentors that are like this, but they're very pig-headed, and they only focus on what their team can do. And those teams lose. At the end of the day, they lose. Because as soon as you put the blinders on this way, you're done. You have to think a whole scope. It's whoever you position yourself with are teams that win championships. 33. Jim, I like Jim a lot. Sometimes Jim gets on my nerves, but I like Jim a lot. Okay, I think he's a wealth of knowledge. I work with him through RoboZone. He's on the TV side, and I'm on the podcast side. He's a wealth of knowledge. Jim is if everyone met Jim like 10 or 15 years ago to Jim now, is two entirely separate Jims, right? He went from that guy and now he's thinking wide range and how to position the teams and stuff like that. There are coaches that we all know that will only put those blinders on. And as soon as you see one of those coaches or mentors, and you have kids that, they get scared because that guy has such a good, strong voice and he just wants this. Sometimes as mentors, we have to train those people to kind of maybe take them off the side. You think you're going to be aligned with that guy. It's a separate discussion out in the hallway, not around the kids, and say, hey, listen, I understand what you want to do and I want to help the team, but I want to win a championship too. See, we all want a blue banner sitting in our workshops, right? That's what we do this for, right, Mr. Lightning? Right, Mr. Lightning? There you go. Okay, so pre-match scouting. Everyone says pet scouting. I don't call it pet scouting, I call it pre-match. Okay? Pre-match scouting is twofold. One is going looking at the robots inside the pets, or what I like to know more about what the teams are like. I want to know how many years that driver's been driving. I want to know if he's a rookie. I want to know, I'll tell you, I experienced this year. We went to an event where they had a drive team that drove just until the playoffs, and then they switched their drive team. Makes no sense. Why would you put a cold team in when someone is driven you to the scene and they say, well, that's just what we do? They lost, right? Because it's common sense. I kept my mouth shut, but I was like, why would you do that? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, on that right there, what you're just saying, and we kept asking ourselves and as the school and the teachers, it's about the kids.
Yeah.
And we had a contest for who would drive, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there was parents that go, no, you do a match here, you drive, you do a match here, you drive, finals, you drive, you drive. And again, it's not really about winning.
I can understand.
I
can understand that, but
I didn't agree with it. I want to win.
In the context of this tournament or this district event, that team was one of the highest OPR teams that was at that event. Why would you take a team that is at that level and just throw another set
Yeah,
in?
and that's what we went one state, and they're going, well, no, let's switch it. We're going, no, we're not going to switch it.
Exactly. If it's
why
not,
would you do that?
if it's not broken, don't try to
But
fix
they
it.
go on, well, it's part of the kids.
Which I understand. And that's why, like, Mark is right now, while we're here, there's teams competing in Mark, and there's outside seasons, but everyone has their own approach. I'm just giving a statement in that I wanted to know from a scouting mentor, I didn't expect that. How can I guide my team to pick a team and then they switch out their drive team? I never knew that. So one of the things we changed after that experience is the drive team you have in the regular matches, the drive team you have, or do you guys switch them out? So it's all about trying to know what the teams are doing so that you can accomplish that, right? And then we have match scouting, which is everyone records the devices, and we'll get back into that a little bit later. And this is my biggest one, observational scouting. Now, I was a military police officer. Whether my kids liked it or not, I don't care, because I have 3 daughters, and trust me, if you're dating my daughter, I'm not a nice guy. Okay, I clean the guns, I do the atypical movie thing. I'm cleaning my AR-15 and pointing at the ceiling, cleaning it like that, and I look at the guy straight at the eyes, almost uncomfortably, because I want him to know I'm serious. It's not a scare tactic, it's just, I'm honest. You hurt my daughter, you're not recording me right now. But I caught that. But you know what I'm saying. And for anyone who has daughters, it's pure hell. But observational scouting. So when I say observational scouting, I want to know, can I rattle the driver of the other team that I'm going up against? Can I bump and run them? I like bump and run, right? Like I taught one of our drive coaches who's younger, I said, listen, this guy gets rattled really easily. When things don't go his way, that driver's off. So bump and run him. Bump him off so he can't put it on the peg straight, because that guy he was a machine. He was putting it on, putting it on. And then we bumped him, and then he went off to the side. And you can see the guy get red. And then he's screwing around with the controls, and then the bot's all over the place. I'm not saying this team was. He's recording me. So, just saying, I like the observational, right? So, first chance for scouting teams to gather metrics is in the pit, right? Pre-match scouting, I call it, is the weight, the type of drivetrain, autonomous capabilities, Do you shoot high, low, the fuel for this year? Do you climb in seconds? Now, by raising hands, who thinks everyone really gives accurate depictions of this if you ask? Just raise your hands. Does anyone think they do? I would say they don't.
Everyone lies.
Okay? But in the end, if everyone lies, we're all screwed.
It's human nature.
Right? So that's where my observational scouting comes into play. I think we need to revisit this as mentors. If I can get you guys to go, when you go back to your teams and say, listen, to the kids, if someone asks you about the team, about the bot, tell them honestly. If you don't know, then ask a mentor while you're there. Give them the exact things, because if we do that, this is a competitive sport, as I call it, competitive sport, but in the end, we're all friends, because when we go out into the work world, we all become engineers or computer science majors, stuff like that. We need to work hand in hand, right? As well as, we don't want the first name to be tainted. Gracious professionalism is what we do, right? So why would you give someone the wrong answer? Now, kids are kids. They like to say, well, you can shoot 3 and they'll expand it, we can do 9. No, you can't. Right? But the problem is that you don't have a mentoring, a scouting mentor going around with all those kids that are collecting the data. So you're just going based off the data. So there's a lot of teams that don't do pit scouting anymore. They don't do pre-med scouting because they don't trust it. We have to change that around.
And there's things that they can do in the shop sometimes that they're like, oh yeah, because I know our kids will do that. They'll be like, yeah, we shot 9 in the shop.
Right.
And they did.
Yeah.
And it was fine. And every time they did, it was fine. And when they get out there and there's other robots hitting them and there's other things,
Yeah.
and they're trying to line it up way across the field, and they're going, well,
Sure.
why aren't we getting it in? Well.
So you know, the devil's in the details, right? So when I get, and I worked with our teams that said, these are the questions I want you to ask. Be very, very detailed in what you want the question to be. Not a roundabout question, you want a very detailed question. How many shots do you average in a match in a competitive match? Everyone has videos posted online on YouTube or the 3-day build events where everyone's shooting, I call it a rope of balls into the bucket.
Yes.
That doesn't happen at a competitive match because you have bots running around bumping you and other stuff. If I just build a shooter and all it does is arc it, and it's usually in like a wood fashion, you know, prototyping, they just shoot it and it's going in. Well, yeah, but you don't have the wheels on, it's not attached to the the frame and all that stuff.
And they spent 10 minutes lining it up to get to that point.
So they get that footage, they get that good bean footage from a commercial, the Jack's Beans or whatever the thing's called with the dog.
How do you change your question for week 1? Because week 1, no one knows.
Yeah, match.
Well, that's not true. Kettering University here has a Kettering Week 0.
Okay, well, not everyone will.
I know, but there are more and more groups that are working together in a close, tight-knit community that has access to a field. And if they have access to the field, they're prototyping. When they're prototyping, they go out and they'll do a practice with that team. You can start to get some of that. I think that's going to become more and more common because this is becoming more and more competitive. As competitive you want, it's kind of like in the sports world, you have travel teams, right? A lot of money spent there. Those are kids that are doing stuff outside the season that are still competing in sports, so that when they go into the season, you have like an all-star team. Same thing. So I think robotics is getting a little more like that. Not everyone has access to that. I'm not, they brought it up this morning, $23,000 for a practice field is a lot of money. But teams that want to compete really well are going to fundraise as well as they should. If they want to take the initiative to spend more effort to get that, then they're going to. So I know you're from Indiana, right?
Yeah.
So I hope they get to that point. But here, as far as Michigan, we have more teams than anyone per capita of any state, let alone any country in the world. So we're all competitive, right? Kettering has a field here. I know there's teams that just build not a full-blown field, but they'll build just the wood pieces, right?
Yeah.
But
it's still not the same as a match, right?
It's not.
So you never really are going to be.
But there
able
are
to
those
tell.
teams that will bring in other teams like I was on 7494, we'd bring our bot here. Metal Muscle was here, and the nerds, engine nerds were here, and we'd all compete against each other. So it is becoming more and more common because the mentors are understanding that they need to be more competitive. They want to know how to do week one, but the gameplay from week one and the gameplay in the championships is totally different because everyone's learning different things as we go.
I've also heard teams going to other states to compete before week one.
Yeah.
So they'll go like
Team Rush
Canada.
brought it up this morning in the fundraising one. They spent $20,000 to go out of state.
Yeah.
Don't record that. You hear me say that. It's not my team, so don't. But
So,
shoes first. Yeah.
if you, like you just said, you all come to here and practice with
Yeah.
another team. Now, you just set that up amongst another team, is that how
All the
that works?
mentors talk to each other.
Oh.
All the drive team and the head mentors talk to each other. I'll give you a name. John's the head of Metal Muscle. He knows the head of my program. His name is Chet. His last name, and don't record this either, but it's Chet's last name. They talk to each other and say, hey, let's set up a scrimmage, and they just bring their bots here.
Okay.
If anyone lives in this general area, please reach out to Bob Nichols. All you have to do is call Bob. I want to bring my bot out there and I want to test it out on your practice field. Bob will not tell you no.
Oh.
The
And-
whole first,
Do we have an email address for
Do we have his phone number?
at the end of the day, ask Andrew Spees. I won't be here, but ask Andrew Spees what Bob Nichols, everyone's met Bob, right? He's been walking around. Meet him before you leave. He's the head of FIRST for the university, for Kettering University. He is a very valuable resource. I'm not just saying that because they sponsored my podcast. I'm just saying that Bob is a valuable resource, and he never says no because he wants all the teams to be fair.
Right.
So even if he sets up a calendar, he'll set up a calendar. Hey, these guys are coming in. Do you want to bring your bot in? And he's here all the time. Whether you like, I mean, sometimes I think too much, but what I'm saying is, the FIRST Center, they built that for this exact reason. They always have a practice field, they'll always set up the field elements, and they'll let you bring your bot in and test it. Especially with House of Cards, and I have a very, I bet you guys don't even know I have a story about it.
And in between 0 and 1, or even afterwards. like-
Also, if anybody's from further north, I know the teams in Midland have a decent sized practice
Yes,
field as well.
we do.
I was gonna say, if there's teams around you, get together, they just called us, hey, you wanna come over, they bought the field to give us as,
Yeah.
middle school at
Yeah.
FTC, and, they just invited 4 or 5 of us. And
Because
come over and practice, and whether it's, we just practice.
we don't have a practice, the team I'm going to, okay, I told you I'm gonna be a first year team. My goal, my personal goal, I want a practice field. I will raise $23,000 to have a practice field. And guess what? I'll be in Fowlerville, so I'm gonna invite the Scott spots. I'm gonna invite Perry. I'm gonna invite the fridge bots that are right down the street. Maybe Davison if they wanna truck their butts all an hour this way, right? But I can take that, I can take that to when I raise the funds and say, listen, I wanna raise funds for this practice field. It's not only benefiting my team, it's also benefiting these teams. Because in the end, as mentors, we're all friends. We have to be that way. Because if we're not going to succeed. It's all about training the younger generation to go up. It's not all about us, right? If I wanted to be all about me, I'll still go coach lacrosse because we have enough coaches that do that in those sports. Where I don't. That's why I like this sport. I never had this as a kid. I joke on the podcast all the time. I tell my daughter who just graduated, I am totally jealous of you. She goes, why, Dad? I said, I didn't have this.
Right.
I was going trucking on my bike to Radio Shack to buy stuff and solder it together. Or buy, the little arms, which was just 2 joysticks. I'd rip that sucker apart, put it back together, put new bearings in it, improve things. We didn't have this. I wish I had this. This is what I needed.
Sure.
I probably wouldn't have played sports in high school if I had this. So that's what I tell them. So let's drive team specific questions. Can you play defense? Oh, it is a switch. I'm hitting the switch right here. Can you play defense? Which starting position do you prefer? These are all related to this year, right? Because this was what I drew for this year. How many years of experience does your drive team have? And I just don't want to know about the driver. I want to know about the operator. I want to know, well, everyone that was up in the airship is their first year. It doesn't mean their first year on this drive team, right? There was other positions last year. I'm glad they opened it up a little bit more this year. I'm glad there were no major incidents with.
Drive team coach.
Drive team coach, we had this, yeah, that's always nice to know. Is he young? There's a lot more drive coaches that seem to be are younger. And that's why I brought up that whole, you see drive coaches that are out there and they have really big egos, and the younger generation that are coming to be drive coaches may not have the, how to put this correctly while being video.
Charisma.
Charisma, that's a good word. I was gonna use something else. But yes, assertiveness. To say, hey, but what about this? Even to ask the question, right? And then, is your drive team in qualifications the same squad as you playoffs? That was the situation I brought up earlier. Okay, we talked about, do the teams tell you the truth, which we all said they don't. Do they deceive? It sounds like we do, or the most of us. And then, are they trying to make themselves look better than they are? Kids automatically want to be better than what they are and want to admit. If they miss 50% of their shots, you'll never hear them say, rarely, we hear them say, we miss 50% of our shots, right? Because you're admitting a weakness. No one ever likes to. I'm a prior military guy, trust me. If anyone, you never speak from weakness because then you're weak, right? So, max scouting, what do you focus on, qualitative or quantitative? And those are the definitions, how good your team does. Team 70 can shoot balls high, deliver a gear, and climb the rope, which are all accurate. Quantitative data, how many points does a team accrue in a match? 494, these are all authentic. 494 scores 10 balls in off time, delivers 5 gears, until he out and climbs a rope in 3.5 seconds. I think we got it down to 2.8 rather than C. And then max scouting continued. Odd time, place of gear. And you'll see these when I get to the app side of what we did. These are all metrics that we recorded in our app. The most important, everyone knows what IMHO means, right? In my humble opinion, right? My opinion is observational scouting. Does for a drive team works well with others in the alliance? Do you know the rules? Do they know the rules? Up until state championships, I still saw teams that didn't know the rule, especially when it came to the guys that, or the young ladies that were off in the airship, right?
We lost the match because my daughter, she was on the airship this year.
Okay.
And the two girls that came up, my daughter's very good about coordinating with
Yeah.
our girls, wants to get everybody that's, in that position, okay, what's our plan, what are we gonna do, are you gonna grab, are you gonna pull? And the girls came over and they did, this is that world, they didn't wanna talk about nothing. Well, we're driving because they were first and second position. Well, we're going up in the ship, and Michaela's like, okay, so what's the plan? Well, we've got it figured out. She's like, well, what's the plan? My daughter's very inquisitive like that. Well, first thing the girl did is grab the gear out of time and stuck it in.
And we got it.
We lost by 5 points that
There
match.
you go.
So it's-
That's where, if I understand that adults get egos, but at the kids' levels, if they're coached correctly, will not have that. They will be humble, right? And Kyle Hughes told us this morning on their team, they go through a very specific set of things before they're even allowed on the team. Some teams don't do that because we're lucky to get as many kids as we can, right? But you have to educate them. There's nothing wrong with educating someone or setting the what the requirements are for being successful. If kids know the requirements, at the end of the day, if they win or lose, you can measure it down to metrics. It's all about metrics, right? The driver, how proficient are they? Can they navigate the field? Or do they get rattled easily? I love that one. Are they good at defense? And this is pretty much for this year, but it kind of goes year after year. It's the same kind of thing, right? The pilot, how proficient were they? Do they communicate with the other pilot well? Are they easily understood with regards to hand signals? Pre-match scouting is not just looking in the pit, but it's also talking to them before the match even starts, right? That's scouting, right? And we have a hand sheet, we measure who does what really well, and we run that sheet down to the drive team because they don't have time to know all that information. And then they can have the conversation, it's being informed, so they can say, hey, this driver gets rattled easily, I'm talking about someone you're competing with, not against. They may be good at this. It's all about using information and then having the mentor, the drive team mentors talk and then the kids talk, I kind of won't like the kids to talk, because if the mentors get into it, then we drive our own vision. If the kids talk about it, they kind of do the best thing. I think most proficient teams are that way, where the kids talk about it. And then the human player, can they deliver a gear to the robot well? Oh my God, I saw so many mind-blowing things this year when it came to shooting. I don't know how hard it was to shoot a gear down into it, but the hand signals and trying to communicate back with the drive team of going over this, I saw this. I'm proficient in sign language, okay? My daughter's deaf. So I don't know if they're telling them to go to first base, or it was mind-blowing. And I thought that even they're the same team, why aren't they talking together? I mean, they're talking before a match, right? And then the drive coach. Is he the center of attention? We already talked about that. Do they drive the conversation, or are they collaborative? Do they know the rules? I met drive team coaches this year that didn't know the rules at all. I didn't understand that. So scouting systems, there's paper-based systems, which is traditional. There's electronic-based systems, which is pure electronics, and there's a hybrid. We used a hybrid only because we used, and we'll get into it, but the only paper-based version of it was printing out the metrics at the end of the day or halfway through the day, and then the communication sheets to the team, right? We didn't want to rely on electronics to do that, because you don't know. Well, I call it janky. You got janky Wi-Fi, which isn't allowed. Cell signals never worked in anywhere, so paper's where we had it. So we would write a sheet down. Paper-based systems. Scouting teams of individual scouters use paper and a set of metrics. The advantages are that it's cheap, because paper's cheap, right? Disadvantages, the aggregated data after recording time is intensive and rework. There's no reason that if you had paper and then you migrate all the papers together and then you put it into a computer, that didn't make any sense to me. I'm an electronics guy, so why couldn't we have a tablet that you tap and you get all the information and it communicates with the device and then all the data's in one place? Why rework? We're already pulling our hair out as mentors, whether you're a scouting mentor or a driving coach mentor or anything else. We don't have much time. And then keeping the attention of the scouters hard. Holy cow, is it hard nowadays. Kids if it's not electronics, they're not looking at it. They'll draw happy little circles, or they'll do doodles. I saw doodles in the last couple of years. I'm like, what are you doing? You're supposed to be recording data. And then being able to read the comments of the scouter. We can probably read each other's chicken scratch, but if I took one of my scouters' chicken scratch and had you read it, you're going to go, what is he doing? Is he a scientist or a doctor already? Because you can't read anything. Electronic-based scouting systems, pure electronics, is, of course, Excel spreadsheets or databases. Everyone has their different flavors of it. Advantages, it's kind of cheap, and that's before you get into tablet stuff. And then manipulation of the aggregation of data to provide exact metrics is what you're looking for. Disadvantages, aggregating data, keeping the attention of the scouter. Oh, maybe, yeah, that's right. And then being able to read the comments of the scouter. Now, this is what we used. We used a hybrid, combination of both the two. We had one laptop, it was a Chromebook, and then we had 6 Android tablets. And we used a scouting app that was actually developed and produced by a team. I met the child at Worlds this year, because we went to Worlds. I met him, shook his hand, I have a picture with him. An amazing young man. He's going to do fantastic things in the future when he gets out of school. The advantages is it eliminates the manual entry of metrics and manipulates the aggregation of data, enables the scouter to be more productive, and allows the backup of the data. This is very big key, backup of the data, right? Because paper, what happens if the paper's in the hotel and you're on site at the competition? You don't have what you need, right? And then allows you to read and understand the scouters recorded or what they're thinking. The only disadvantage is it can be expensive, but I can teach you how to get around that. So this is what we did. We had a Chromebook. We had 6 tablets that worked with this Chromebook. The Chromebook was a server, right? So each match, they would record a record. There was 1 record per match. And then every hour, they would sync the data one by one to the server. So the server always had the core data. So even if the tablet went down, you still had 5 tablets running. And then we always, because I'm a military guy, had a 7th tablet. right? Or we had power, the bricks, the external power supplies, we had like tons of them. Yeah, they're cheap now, thank God. So advantages, each robot match was covered to record exact matches. Like we assign each position, like red 1, red 2, red 3, blue 1, blue 2, blue 3, that's all you scouted all day. When you got tired and needed to use a restroom, we had another kid. Now, between 2 teams, we only had a total of 20 kids. 2 teams, 20 kids, not 20 per team. 20 kids, period. That's everyone on the team. That's not just scouting, that's everyone. So we had limited resources.
Good question, you said syncing, is that done via Ethernet cable or
No,
Bluetooth? What do you do?
Bluetooth.
Bluetooth?
Bluetooth is my friend and yours. And we'll get into that. I have all the specifics for you. It keeps the attention of the scouter to keep the record. Pit scouting data was also recorded in the same app, just on a different tab, and I'll show you that. And the sync of the data all at the same time. Disadvantages is the equipment was expensive. I teach how to get around that. And the monitoring of the battery percentages. This is the app that we use. It's called FRC Crawler. It's Android only based. I'm not an Apple fan. This is the front page of the scouting app. This is what the event we were going to. And you could, what we did at the end of the beginning of the morning while we're still in the hotel is I would sync all the tablets all at the same time. It would download automatically because it ties through an API to Blue Alliance. It pulls down the match data, match scouting, or the match schedule, and then it would record in that. So if you say you were on match 5, it already knew who you were, or if it didn't, you could pick it. And that time happened was when that first night that we all get there, someone couldn't come, then the API wouldn't have updated as quickly, so you can add to it. So these are all the metrics that we recorded. It looks like a lot, but when I show you a video of what we actually did, it's not. In my mind, it's not. And we kind of toned it down towards the end of the season. So this is the very beginning of the season. So we went starting position, fuel scored high, fuel scored low, gear placement on spring, and gear scored. If you notice, we positioned in three different areas of the match: the auton, the teleop, and then what we call end game, which is the rope climb and that type of stuff. Okay, so this is the metrics that we covered. This is in addition. It does look long, but as you're going through a match, you're recording, and I'll show you, it's not as bad as it looks. Right, and then we did stuff like pilot performance, robot performance, driver performance, efficiency, traffic management, penalty points, which we wanted to record who had the penalty points, because at the end of the match, it doesn't tell you who got the penalty points, it just says penalty points. But if we record it, if you're watching and you see the person in the airship hit the top of the dab and hit it with their hand, that was a penalty. You can record it right at that point. So we wanted to try to accurately account for everyone. And this is probably the most important one right here. We made everyone put their name down. So if we had any questions, we could go back to that person and say, hey, do you remember this match? What happened here? And hopefully they had the recollection. But at least we did that for a reason, because if they know they're owning that record, then they're going to pay attention to it. They're not going to be sitting on their cell phone playing Snake or something like that. And then the pit metrics. We just want to know what type of turret. I call it a turret, but turret type, the number of cameras, number of gear loading, auton, fuel delivery, fuel loading, gear spitting and dropping. Spitting just means releasing out onto the floor. I didn't like that term. One of the other mentors said gear spitting. I was like, okay, I wasn't going to argue with her. I'm kind of afraid of her. And then the climb, end game, and the driver experience number of years. We're trying to record as much stuff as I already told you. So this is what it looks like. So it's in this format. It's not landscape, it's portrait. It's match scouting, pit scouting, and then practice match. So if there was a practice match, you could go do a practice match run. If it was pit scouting, went underneath that, and match scouting was everyone else. See this little syncing thing? So each one of these devices had that. So one at a time, they would sync with the Bluetooth server sitting on that Chromebook. And now it's even more, it's more easier now because Before you couldn't run Android apps on a Chromebook, and now you can. That's something that's new. It was within the last 3 or 4 months that they did that, so it kind of alleviated itself. So this is what it looks like. I'm gonna get over here for what it looks like. So the match is the match number. The pull down, see Trucktown Thunder sitting right here. I know it's kind of hard to see in here. Let me shut that. Wait till I see it. There we go. Starting position, we wanted to know fuel scored high, low, and all that stuff. That starting position was really valuable if you got into playoffs. So you knew the teams that you were positioned with, what they were good at, and I'll show you after this what the extract looks like. So one of the, you could export from it, it gave you 2 different type of extracts. One was the raw data, so it's list 1 to 100 for no matter what team it was, and list every exact match that was recorded. The other one was a summary of data, and that's the one that our drive coach liked the most. Rather than having all the records for a team, it only had 1 record for a team, and it gave you percentages. They were good if they started out at the center peg, how successful they were on the center peg. It was very easy for him to read the information rather than going through all the metrics for each of the records.
So what if the team got better as the day went on? Did you capture those metrics?
Well, it does, because if you look at the raw data, it'll tell you by each individual match.
Could you control the aggregation of that
Yes.
data? Okay.
Because you could dump, what it does is it dumps it into an Excel sheet.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So we had an Excel guy that just built a couple,
Yep.
doodads in there that he likes to say. He used the word term doodads, whatever. And it, I forget what they call them. Not doodads, because it's imprinted in my brain from this past season. Not a filter, it's
Lookup table?
The aggregation.
macro.
Macro, yeah.
Yeah, macro, that's the term. Prepared them for the next opponent's abilities and strategies, and then provides capabilities of the alliance partners and allows them for proper strategy to win the match. So these are communication sheets that we actually used for this season. So we would take this, we put the team number there. I took all the teams out so you guys didn't see any of the teams that we marked to them. Yeah, in case they were here. Yeah. And then where they, like if they hang and they failed, how many gears, so fun. And then the rating would be the rating that the scouting team would give that team, right, to go up to the next match. So we'd send this down before each one of our teams had a match.
But is the rating subjective?
Well, it is subjective.
Because we did it based on 1 to 10, but,
It's
I mean,
subjective,
it's
A,
very-
B, or C. Well, if they say, well, I think we put up like a cheat sheet. If they hung,
Okay.
okay.
We had something.
Yeah, we had something like that. I didn't bring that with me. Here is the team number, is 2052, the Night Crawlers. That's who created that app. They met the young man. These are a couple mentors that I'd like to mention. They were on my scouting team with me for both teams. And then how you can follow the podcast. I can't plug it enough. Well, I'm only doing it. I'm not paid for it, so I'm just saying. It's of your benefit to listen. A lot of this stuff. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here, and this is actually a video. So I'm going to click on this video, and you guys can actually watch a match. It's going to be kind of fast. So I'm going through there. You guys see blinking, putting in what match number I'm in. I'm going to go pick the team. And it's been a while since I've done this presentation, so we're all going to learn it together. Oh, I picked us. More Martians. Picked where we're coming from in Auton, and then the match starts. So
Are you actually scouting before you do this?
I did this as a presentation, but in the kids' heads, they knew that they scored. They were counting balls. They could do it 2 ways. They could either tap as they go, or they could just keep the number in their head and then put it in later. Right? Gear placed? No, I guess we were very good in. Oh yeah, we did well. See, it's been a while since I've seen this. We scored the gear, teleop, so now we're going in the next section, teleop, right? Because there's 2 distinctive stops. There's a teleop, or the auton, then teleop, and then endgame. And then the ooh and ah thing's coming later. I'll let you guys experience it for yourself before I say anything. There's this little thing down here in the bottom right-hand corner. It's a little save. Without doing that save, it never saved anything. So at the end, I taught them to all go all the way to the top to review what they did, and then they hit the save, and then it was done. So we even recorded how many gears they dropped. We wanted to know who was really good at it. How many gears were by the chute. The climb attempted, successful. Look, see this? Oh, look, it's counting how many seconds it took them to grab the rope. And then you click that, and it's how many seconds it took to climb. So those were 2 buttons. So you click one, stop, click the next one, stop. And this was the most effective way that we knew about who was with us, especially that end game. That was the ooh and ah. All the kids loved that. Because they weren't trying to go 1 and 1,000, 2 1,000. It was just click, 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 click. 4 clicks. Done.
Can you create your own new data element?
You can create any data element you want in this. And
What's
it's
the
free.
app called?
FRC crawler. Still out there. And he updates it. The guy that was, he's a junior, going to be a senior. There were a couple problems that we had with it right at the beginning because we used it here at Kettering week 0. And I emailed him, and he put out an update the next morning and said, "This is what I need now, Pete." And I said, "Okay." Making sure we're on time, you guys. Although my watch is not running too. Oh, it's still, oh, good. I have 5 more minutes. Okay, so this was cool. And then when we had to export, it would have percentages of how much, if they were successful, unsuccessful, so on and so forth. Trying to think of everything else in my mind because I've learned so much today.
What was the inexpensive way to get the?
Oh, yeah, let's cover that. So, tablets are pretty cheap, especially Android tablets, right? You don't need the biggest, greatest amount of, it doesn't take a lot of space on the tablet to do this, okay? You want Wi-Fi only, or they have Bluetooth, one of the two, right? Usually they coincide with each other. You don't need the cell versions. No, because you're using the Bluetooth as the server, right? Because you're using the Bluetooth and the server on the Chromebook, so you're abiding by first standards. You're not sending out any strange signals up there, right? So what I did is I put a GoFundMe account up, and I said I wanted to raise $1,400 to do this. That was a Chromebook, 6 tablets, about $200 a tablet around, and a Chromebook was about $200, whatever. So I raised $485. Not what I wanted, so I spent the most money on the Chromebook because that's the server, right? Chromebooks are now cheaper than they were even 4 months ago. I think you can buy one for like $150. The tablets, I actually went out, believe it or not, and I started looking at Craigslist, and what was a $200, $150 to $200 tablet I could get for $60. So I bought used. So I met that $485 mark. I had 6 tablets with 1 extra, and then I had a Chromebook. We were good to go. So that's the way to get around that.
Quick question.
Yeah.
So is the server an Android app that you're just running on a Chromebook?
The server is actually the app just running on the Chromebook that doesn't take in, you're not inputting data with it. It
Right.
only uses the server.
So my question is, does it have to be a Chromebook? You run it on one of the tablets?
You could, but I wanted somewhere that I only had it.
Okay.
No one else touched it but me.
Sure, which makes
Personal
sense.
responsibility. As well as I wanted something that could export it without, it had more oomph than a tablet has.
Okay.
As well as it had a nice flip screen, touch screen, I'm under.
Keyboard
I get
probably
that. I
helps
was just
too.
curious if it had to be a Chromebook.
Not only did we utilize this in my program, but your program adopted this. They came and saw me at one of the events. Hey, Pete, how are you doing this? So not only did it work for us, it worked for Davison. They're using the same exact application and setup that we are.
What we did is we just asked for my son and some other kids put out a thing on Slack, email, wherever. Anybody want to donate their old phone? I happen to have a couple old phones. Donated those. They were Androids.
That's what I was
Had
saying.
a couple.
You can run it off an Android phone. Here's why I wanted dedicated equipment.
They were
One,
delicious.
kids weren't using those tablets for anything but this.
Right.
Because if you put it on their phone, they're gonna say, "Oh, the battery's dead."
Well, that's why I have when I've upgraded phones, my old phones, I mean, would that work same
Yeah, the old phones, especially if you have the larger versions, like the Note series or stuff like that, because they even have like the little styluses, which you could use on the smaller screens.
But it just has to run Android.
Yeah.
And make sure they're white clean, because we had issues where there were pictures and
See? So get dedicated equipment, you don't have to worry about finding something you don't want to find.
It wasn't bad, but we thought it was gonna be bad.
Yeah. So I mean, you had an OSM or an OSH moment,
Yeah.
and you didn't want to see that.
Yes.
So that's what I call it. But it, by far, if you have a smaller team, this is the best way to scout that you possibly can, because you're getting the best data that you can get.
I know this year, we got with Woodhaven, and there was a kid from Woodhaven, he developed one for iPads. And our school just had iPads, and we were like, oh, that's work, you know. He developed it though when transmitting data, because he couldn't have, it generates a QR code that our scout guy would just take his and take a picture of it. And it just took all those, it just would generate a QR code.
Yeah, I've seen a few of those.
So if you reach out to that,
immediately of getting that.
if you reach out to that kid from that team, the 2042, 2052, maybe he has that built in. He said there was other things that he wanted for next year, and I'm like, okay.
How old is he?
Oh, he's 15 or 16.
Sounds about right.
Amazing kid. Because he was on the scouting team, so he wanted something to help himself. It's amazing what people do when they want to help themselves, right?
Yeah.
Because that paper is just ridiculously long.
Yeah, that was so nice.
If you guys don't have any more questions, I'm going to let you up because there's another one to go to. But I will send this deck out to everyone for them to have, so thank you for attending.